Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, I was watching a video of my friends Ben and David who were on the Sea Dream 1 and they had some interesting things to say about their experience with everything that happened. So first off, we'll go over the Sea Dream. It's a small it's small cruise line. It's under 250 passengers. It doesn't fall under the CDC curfew of no sail order or anything like that. It would have been free to sail even all summer if it wanted to. It sailed with 63 passengers on board and 54 crew members, and one family apparently got on board with the virus. 5 out of 6 passengers had the virus. One passenger first tested positive, and then when they started testing the other passengers, they found out that one family, 5 out of 6 members had it. Then another couple had it, which brought it up to 7. And now, unfortunately, a crew member also has it. One of the servers that were there. Coincidentally, he happened to be the server that was serving Ben and David on their cruise. They were there on what would be called like a press junket. There were a few, like the Points guys were on there, and another Travel and Leisure were on board. And they were there as guests of the cruise line, and they were also doing other work on board, taking photos and things like that. So they were on for quite a while before they even did this one cruise, and they were having a great time and everything until, of course, everything turned completely around when the one passenger tested positive. And of course, the big thing that everyone was saying is most of the cruise, all the way across the transatlantic and all summer, passengers and crew members weren't wearing masks. And now we have to ask ourselves, is this a case of overconfidence? We had cruises during the summer, we didn't need masks, we didn't need our crew to wear masks, our testing and rigorous cleaning. I mean, they have the fogging machines on board, they have ultraviolet lights that kill the virus, all that sort of stuff they have on board. But if somebody walks on the ship with the virus, that's not going to kill it. It's on the person, right? So, the only thing it will reduce is the spread of everything going on. Now, I will say right now that Ben and David said the crew were fantastic on the ship, and you would not expect anything different from a luxury yacht type cruising experience. You would expect the guest service to be top notch, best of the best, right? So that there's no question there. So no one was rude. No one was, not informing them what things were happening. They kept everybody abreast, and they made sure everyone was as comfortable as possible. The cruise line did, and the crew members did everything they could to help the passengers and alleviate any nervousness and things like that. So bravo on Sea Dream and the crew in particular for doing those sort of things. So we talk about the masks. Now, about 3 days into the cruise, they did start wearing masks for the crew, and they did start telling people, you have to start wearing masks in public places. You don't have to wear it if you're sitting by the pool. You don't have to wear it in your stateroom. You don't have to wear it while you're having dinner, etc. But you have to wear it while you're walking through some tight spaces in the corridors and places like that. Now, there's only 63 passengers on board, a ship that holds 250. It has 6 decks. It's not exactly a small boat. So there's room to get around and room to maneuver. But, when you come together in the same area for dinner, when you come together from the same area for entertainment or something, you conjugate on the pool deck, if one family has it, it's highly likely that it could spread to other people very easily. So the mask thing was an issue. That's not a protocol. They put it in too late, and it really hurt the reputation of this particular bubble that they were trying to create. Another thing that I found out that I didn't like is that they tested positive, one of the crew member, and the crew member was stationed directly next door to passengers. So there was no, place that people who got the virus were moved to like they're supposed to in a separate area and isolated. They were just put back in their room and isolated. So if you're next door to that person, you're within, a thin cruise line wall, and you know how paper thin cruise line walls can be. You can hear the next door neighbors all the time. So is that really protection? Plus, this isn't a large ship. They all don't have balconies. Most cabins don't have balconies on this ship. I think maybe there's only a top deck area, and even them, they don't really have balconies, maybe more of a French door area. But yeah, so it's all interior cabins, and they didn't isolate them into a particular part of the ship, which is another protocol that really needs to be looked at. That is not what's supposed to happen. If you look at all the regulations that all the cruise lines have said, they will say cabins will be set aside in a separate area. Even the medical lab downstairs in the infirmary and that in the large cruise ships have a section sectioned off that is away from the other infirmary area. So that's a big thing. So to have had these people still next door, I think Sea Dream really has to look at that if that's completely the case, because that's not the way to have to go. If you're sailing for 2 or 3 more days to get back to a port, and you're stuck in your room directly beside somebody who has it, and it's an airborne virus, and you're in interior cabins, again, recipe for disaster. So that really needs to be looked at. But let's go over what happened afterwards. Now, people who were getting off the ship, you had to test negative twice before you were allowed off the ship. Once you tested negative off the ship, did they take everybody out and then quarantine them? No, they did not. And this wasn't Sea Dream. This wasn't the passengers saying this. In fact, the passengers, a lot of them were saying, hey, aren't we going to a hotel to quarantine? Or shouldn't we go somewhere for at least a week? But apparently the Barbados government wanted them out as soon as possible, and they ushered him into buses to the airport, and away you go. And if you watch Ben and David's video, they probably think that trip home was worse than anything that could have happened on the cruise. They were packed into buses with people, not 200 people into a bus. No, you're not allowed to wait for the next bus. They weren't social distancing on the buses. They were standing room only. From the sounds of it, people had their masks down along their chin. People were coughing and sneezing on the bus. It's as if nothing ever happened. Nothing's going on. And meanwhile, you take people who were just in contact with people who had the virus, put them on this bus, and then put them on the plane. Once again, buses and planes, no protocols. No protocols at all. Please wear a mask. That's it. That's your protocol. There's no fogging of the planes. There's no any of that stuff going on. There's no fogging of the buses. There's none of that going on. There's no UV lights in the planes going on. None of that. But they took potentially people who hadn't shown signs yet and put them on planes and buses and just said, get out. And away they went. So, yeah, a couple flaws in this system, at least for that area. Now, will that happen for the large cruise lines? No. The reasoning is the cruise lines have to have home port facilities where people can be quarantined and isolated. That's in the guidelines to restart. You cannot do it unless you have written contracts with places where you can take people off, quarantine them before sending them home. So no, they're not just going to take you off and ship you away like apparently they did here. The reason they can do it here, because it's under 250 people and it doesn't fall into the restrictions of the guidelines. And the home port isn't in the United States, it's in Barbados. Barbados is where it's sailing from and going back to. So it goes by their rules and not the rules here in North America and the United States and Canada. You are not going to be able to do that. So I think the protocols, you can point to a lot of, didn't social distance the people in the cabins once they were infected, didn't segregate them to different area of the ship completely away from the rest of the passengers, didn't wear masks on the cruise. When they're taking people off, they didn't quarantine them. They just shipped them home. So you can see a lot of flaws and a lot of errors compared to what the restrictions are going to be for here on cruising in North America. So there is those are pretty significant ones, actually. Pretty significant as far as I'm concerned. Now, can you imagine a week down the road we start hearing, oh, this passenger in the United States gave the virus to somebody else. This passenger in Britain gave the virus to somebody else, all because they didn't quarantine them when they came off. And it's not like there were thousands of them. There was under 60 of them that got off the ship. And one person, though, is in hospital. That was the person who initially tested positive, who really wasn't feeling well. So we don't know if it's other conditions as well that contributed to that. Because if he didn't show signs of the illness, we may never have even known this happened by the time the cruise was over. Who knows? But they were all scheduled to be tested like in another day. But yeah, definitely some lapses in the protocol, I think, on the ship, and especially getting people home. Just crowding a bunch of people onto a bus and crowding a bunch of people then into the airplanes. That can't be good, right? That can't be the way things are going. And everyone's freaking out. Oh my God, there was 7 passengers who had tested positive on a cruise ship. Oh my God. There was 181,000 people who tested positive the other day in the United States. maybe our lacking of protocols in other places just might be contributing to that a little bit more than the cruise ships. Just saying. Well, I'm glad Ben and David are okay. I'm glad they got home safe, and I hope everyone else recovers from their experience out there. From what I can tell, they seem to be doing well, the passenger who's in hospital, but not a lot of details are coming out about that. But there you go. If you don't follow protocols exactly the way they're laid out, things bad are going to happen. So you have to follow the protocols. You just do. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. We'll see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world. Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.